When my son Paul was in 4th grade, he took a knife to school. He pulled it back, and thwack, everyone in the room went, and then he twisted the pit out of the avocado safely. He was demonstrating homemade guacamole to his class. But what shocked me the most wasn't a 10-year-old using a chef's knife. I thought it was incredible to watch all the kids try his recipe, especially friends who had already told him they knew guac was gross. There was some sort of power in that little bit of involvement, just watching a friend make the food. I desperately want to raise healthy, independent adults. So was I doing enough to get my own kids involved in the kitchen? I'd been teaching people to cook for years as a food blogger, but I realized the only thing my own son could make was guacamole. When did we lose that connection between cooking and eating anyway? I looked into it. The Happy Meal was released in 1979, and Lunchables 10 years later, with all sorts of junk food for kids in between. So my childhood in the 80s, like many of yours, was defined by kid-friendly marketing pulling us in. Think about it. Where we played, where we spent our time, where we ate dinner changed. All that kid-friendly marketing worked. And how we ate has unfortunately continued to define our adulthoods. It's defining how we play. 70% of US adults are obese or overweight, so we play sitting down. It's defining where we spend our time. We're in doctors' offices and pharmacy waiting lines. And kid-friendly food continues to define how we eat family dinners, along with those ever-present screens. Now, before you think, here it comes, Katie's going to tell us, stop eating junk food, it's time to get healthy. It's not that simple. For me, you get something a little different. Remember, I'm the mom who sent my kid to school with a 6-inch chef's knife. I see a more unique solution because that day, standing in a 4th grade classroom, a bag of tortilla chips in one hand and a bowl of leftover carrot sticks in the other, I became a kids cooking teacher. And then my kids started teaching me about the power of kids cooking. I thought teaching them to cook would be some sort of 18-year-long investment in their future, like a diet. No pain, no gain. But no. We saw benefits to physical health, mental health, and family life almost immediately. So whether you think kids need more chores or more playtime, more broccoli, or more French fries, I invite you to join me on this movement to revolutionize the meaning of a kid's meal. Now that my kids can cook, when I say we're having a kid's meal, that doesn't mean fast food, that doesn't mean short order cooking nuggets and fries. That means my kids are cooking dinner for the rest of us. And it's not just my kids. Kids Cook Real Food is the organization I founded to help other parents teach their kids to cook too. Summer 2020, coronavirus lockdown, we hosted a virtual summer camp, and over 10,000 families joined in. On day 3 of the 8-day camp, kids learned skills of crushing garlic and sautéing at the stove. During our live session, Paul and I, he's now 15, kept seeing these comments come in. We're eating our stir-fry and egg-fried rice right now. Oh, we made our stir-fry for lunch. It was delicious. Oh, we're working on our stir-fry for dinner. It smells so good. You guys, do you know what a stir-fry is? It's a pile of vegetables thrown into a pan. This is not what people think of when they think kid-friendly food. I told Paul the next day I was amazed I had somehow meal planned the world. Why are you surprised? It's what you told them to do for the lesson. Well, son, I'm a mom of 4 kids. People don't always do what I tell them. This stir fry heard round the world with such a powerful way to connect people together across borders. And that is the happiest meal I can imagine. A kid's meal that kids have cooked. Now I have to know, do you think the kids actually ate the pile of veggies thrown into a pan? Yes, they did. Because when kids are involved with food, they eat better. With 1 in 3 high school students already overweight, this is a key shift that needs to happen. There was a study done in 2019 on the IKEA effect. The IKEA effect is this idea that when someone is involved in the creation of something, they tend to feel more favorably about it. Researchers wanted to know if this would work with food, not just furniture. They found that when children are more involved in cooking food, they are more likely to like vegetables and more likely to eat them. The IKEA effect worked. On the children only. For the adults in the study, it made no impact. See, there's a window of opportunity for our kids. But eating better isn't even the best part about teaching kids to cook. The most powerful benefit our campers saw, and almost 3/4 of our 15,000 members say the same, was the increase in kids' self-esteem and the feelings of confidence and self-worth. No participation medal needed. Listen, 2 million kids in America are clinically depressed or anxious, and suicide was already the second leading cause of death for kids and teens. 2020 did not help. Adults reporting depression symptoms tripled, and 1 in 4 young adults contemplated suicide during lockdown. We could crush those statistics if every child felt like they had a meaningful role to play in society, in their families. Like Joseph, just 6 years old, making homemade taco seasoning for his teacher. When she asked for his recipe and said her kids loved it, I can just see his smile bounding out to the car to tell his mom. And how about this family from the UK? Dad is a nurse who moved out at the beginning of the pandemic to keep Bryony and her 2 boys safe. She's suddenly single parenting, working from home. Hector and Wilfred are watching more TV than ever. She told me cooking together was life-changing, a powerful way to reconnect at the end of each day. We learn confidence through doing authentic work, through knowing we matter to our families. We feel grounded and connected through food. And that is why learning to cook has the power to improve mental health for our kids. When we redefine a kid's meal as one a kid can cook, families even see benefits in the day-to-day stressful operations of a household. Teaching kids to cook never needs to be 18 years of no pain, no gain. No. The gift to the family begins today. It begins with the nursing moms on the couch whose kids are getting lunch ready. It begins when parents are sick in bed and the kids can cover breakfast. Becky saw this transformation. She said her 5-year-old Dylan used to just be in the way, but after building specific skills, he's actually helpful. Her 8-year-old Nolan started cooking with her every night, and 10-year-old Caleb loves to show Dad how he can cut a whole cantaloupe by himself with the big knife. Oh, and I have to tell you about Sarah. She basically spent 9 months in bed for her 3rd pregnancy. And when her husband had 2 unplanned surgeries, her boys had to step up. Thank goodness they'd already gone through Kids Cook Real Food. They were only 8 and 12, but they handled taco night, cut fresh fruits and veggies, and cooked egg sandwiches for breakfast. Actual nourishing food for Mom and new little baby sister. You can do this in your family too. But before we bust out the chef's knives, we need to redefine play, time, and dinner. First, I want you to think of the kitchen as the new playground. When kids are young, they want to help. They don't know cooking is a chore until we tell them. In fact, in countries where it's normal for kids to have chores before the age of 5, they remain excited about them when they're 8. So start young, if you can, like Courtney did with 2-year-old Cadence. Courtney used to let her kids help make pancakes, and they would dump and stir what she had already measured, but Courtney always had to finish stirring or it wouldn't be done right. After building skills at summer camp, little Cadence loves measuring flat, no holes, no hills, and stirring to a uniform mixture. Courtney is amazed that her 2-year-old can make pancake batter practically by herself now. Remember, if kids feel like cooking is the new play, everyone wins. Second, the power of families cooking together can redefine the way we want to spend our time. You know, lockdown redefined the way a lot of people spent their time, like Michelle and her kids in Panama. In June, the kids couldn't go anywhere other than their own home and a half-mile radius outside for a walk with an adult. They could have chosen to get sick of all that time together, but instead, they were grateful to cook together every day in summer camp. See, it's a shift in thinking. With calendars pretty clear in many parts of the world, 78% of over 1,200 families taking my survey spring 2020 said they were now focusing on life skills. I'm not going to stand here and tell you teaching kids to cook is easy, but somehow we managed to potty train those kids, and that's not easy. And we make them brush their teeth and do their homework. I say, teaching kids to cook has to be on that list of parenting non-negotiables. But if you don't know how to get started, don't worry. Here's the secret. Don't teach kids to cook in that stressful hour right before dinner. Work with kids in the kitchen when they're happiest, after they've eaten, yeah? Redefine cooking time as after breakfast, after lunch. Prepare some food for later. That's the power of time well spent. Now, third, it's time to redefine again what those family dinners look like. It doesn't need to be a stressed out parent kicking the kids out because it's faster to do it yourself or giving up on ordering pizza. With proper training, your kids can totally contribute. But first, we need to shift our thinking. At Kids Cook Real Food, I focus on the skills, not the recipes. Because teaching kids to cook, it's a lot like teaching kids to read. We don't teach kids to read The Cat in the Hat this week, and then we move on to the Boxcar Children number 57 the next week. No. We teach them letters, then sounds, then whole words, and how that all comes together to read any book in the world. Cooking is the same. We teach them peeling, working at the stove safely, the knife skills they need to unlock the produce section, and how those skills all come together to make any recipe in the world. And if kids are helping cook the meal, you better believe everyone is coming together to eat it. Research shows that kids who eat regular family dinners are more likely to avoid risky behaviors and even get better grades. I know you want to raise those kids. When we redefine a kid's meal as one a kid cooks, we will redefine how their generation plays, how they spend their quality time, and how they eat family dinners. No longer does a kid's meal have to be one in the backseat after a drive-thru. No longer does a kid's meal have to be the usual burger, pizza, mac and cheese, chicken strips. Ugh. It's the same restaurant kids menu, whether you're at Mexican, Italian, or Asian. Our childhoods may be defining our adulthoods, but they don't have to determine our children's. I didn't really learn to cook when I was a kid, like many of you probably. I mean, baking, yeah, but most of our veggies came from a bag in the freezer. I'd never crushed garlic, like our kids making the stir fry heard round the world. The first time I bought fresh garlic, I was in college, trying to make a recipe I'd found for applesauce pork chops for a dinner party. The recipe called for a clove of garlic. I bought what I assumed was a clove of garlic. I wasn't patient enough to separate out all the papery stuff, but I bet I still got at least a half a bulb in applesauce pork. Ugh. My daughter Leah was 10 when she heard this story. She looks at me and says, Mom, I bet I'm a better cook now than you were when you were in college. And I'm sure she's right. And I'm glad those 10,000 kids around the world know more about garlic than I did when I was in college. I'm glad kids all over are teaching their preschool friends how to hold a plate properly and reminding their parents food moves, knife down, like I've taught them. I'm glad of that. Because I've heard it said that our kids' generation is going to be the first with a shorter life expectancy than their parents. I refuse to stand by and let that happen. I said at the beginning that I see a different solution to the kids' meal disaster. And it actually is kind of simple. Teach your kids to cook. And you can IKEA effect them right out of picky eating. Together, we can flip that 70% obesity stat for our kids' generation. But the power of kids cooking it's so much more than just their physical health. Teach your kids to cook, and you'll be amazed at the connection formed, the confidence built, the contribution to the family, the very foundations of balanced mental health they need. Teach your kids to cook, and it will be good for your child. It will be good for your family. It will be good for all of society and even generations to come. I'm Katie Kimball, the voice of Healthy Kids Cooking, and I believe it's time to start a kids' meal revolution and redefine together that what makes a meal truly happy is when kids cook real food. Hey, if you would like to join me on the Kids Meal Revolution, go to kidscookrealfood.com/revolution. I'd love to help you get your kids in the kitchen, get home ec back in your school or homeschool co-op, speak to your group, be on your podcast, or do whatever we can to IKEA effect those picky eaters out there.